reported feeling this. And what struck me about this was when I first pulled this up, I'm going to try to pull up the seismograph. That's the seismograph. It's a pretty sharp jump and shaking. It was very abrupt. It was only a mile deep, which is really shallow, which is the other reason I think a lot of people felt this. And so this was felt over a big area, but that's a pretty significant quake that people felt. And I got a cool video from a viewer down there, actually sent it to one of our spotter friends, Chris Jackson, who forwarded it to me. But I'm going to play this on my laptop, and I just want you to watch the camera and watch the cat on the chair when this quake hits. It's pretty amazing. The whole camera and house shook. There was a little sound there. I'll replay it again.
Wow.
But there's another video I saw. It was so funny. The camera didn't shake, but both of their dogs got up and started barking. Like, the dogs can sense these things. It kind of blows my mind how amazing animals are that they can sense this. But pretty significant quake, and has people, not, I want to say shook, but it has people talking down in the Midlands, Tim. And it is fascinating because that area, this is the third quake they've seen in the last month. So I guess it technically qualifies as a quake swarm. And so it has a lot of people talking down in South Carolina.
It's interesting, and a lot of these, I guess, the Charleston area had a couple, and now you're seeing the Columbia area. We had a couple up near the Sparta area, which of course was the site of that really big one a couple of years ago as well, around 2020. So this is somewhat of a cluster, and at least maybe we're heightened to it right now. But that's a 3.0. Not all 3.0 quakes are created equal. Like that's a pretty good one, and a pretty noticeable one too. For people that might not know, what is it that kind of causes the sound when you're doing an earthquake like that?
Well, sometimes it's just the shaking of the building, but oftentimes the ground just moving makes a physical sound, and you can hear it. I think in that video, I think a lot of it was coming from the actual house. I remember when the Sparta quake occurred at my house. I felt it, but I also heard my house. It felt like the wind. You ever heard your house creaking when the wind pushes against it? That's what it sounded like in my house.
Sure.
What I do think is interesting, Tim, and I'm just going to speculate because we had another cluster in a reservoir north of there, the Monticello Reservoir near Jenkinsville. There's actually a seismograph there now because of this. They speculated that in these man-made reservoirs, when the water level's going up or down, it adds or reduces stress on the underlying rock and could induce these earthquakes. So it could be that this is maybe drought related. Who knows? Maybe low water levels relieving pressure is causing it. We don't know, but I thought that was interesting that could be the case. We'll see. We'll see if this was a foreshock or an aftershock in the coming weeks. So we're out of time. Stick around, though. We got more news coming up on The Plus right here.
Hi, everyone. We are back inside the Impact studio here on WCNC Plus. I got a lot of news to get to you. I'm Colin Mayfield. We're going to start with Hillary Clinton, who was deposed today in front of the House Oversight Committee. She did speak to reporters. So let's go to this. This just happened moments ago.
I have just finished testifying. I answered every one of their questions as fully as I could, based on what I knew, and what I knew is what I said in my statement this morning. I never met Jeffrey Epstein, never had any connection or communication with him. I knew Ghislaine Maxwell casually as an acquaintance, but whatever they asked me, I did my very best to respond. It was disappointing that they refused to hold a public hearing, so I wouldn't have to be out here characterizing it for you. You could have seen it for yourself. We had asked for that. We think it would have been better for the committee and its efforts to gather whatever information they are seeking. We had a bit of a challenge in the beginning because we had agreed upon rules based on the fact it was going to be a closed hearing at their demand, and one of the members violated that rule, which was very upsetting because it suggested that they might violate other of our agreements. So we had to cease the hearing for a period of time until we could get assurances that no rules would be broken going forward, and we returned to answer questions repetitively, literally over and over again. I don't know how many times I had to say I did not know Jeffrey Epstein. I never went to his island. I never went to his homes. I never went to his offices. So it's on the record numerous times. It then got, at the end, quite unusual because I started being asked about UFOs and a series of questions about Pizzagate, one of the most vile, bogus conspiracy theories that was propagated on the internet that was serving as the basis of a member's questions to me. So I can only say that the best exchange that I had came at the very end, when, contrary to every other deposition they have taken, no Republican member asked any questions about Jeffrey Epstein or Ghislaine Maxwell to anyone else they have deposed. And in fact, the Republican members didn't even show up for the deposition of Les Wexner. And when I said that, I had to point out that the only questions that any Republican member asked of any of the people they deposed was of former Attorney General Bill Barr, when Chairman Comer asked him about the allegations, in his view, about Russia's involvement in my election in 2016. So at the very end of this hearing, after I made that point, I want to commend Chairman Comer for raising a series of significant questions that I responded to about the nature of the investigation and the areas that I thought should be explored. So I appreciated that. I want to see the truth come out. So that was a reassuring way to end a very long, repetitive deposition.
Madam Secretary. Secretary, you spoke in your opening remarks about how heartbroken you have been for the Epstein survivors as these files have come out. Can you talk to us a little bit about how you have processed and reacted to the fact that the former president, your husband, Bill Clinton, is referencing the Epstein files numerous times, including in some photos featuring women? And how have you been personally preparing for the deposition that is coming tomorrow? Are you 100% confident that there isn't anything that the former president knows about Epstein's crimes?
I am, and I think the chronology of the connection that he had with Epstein ended several years before anything about Epstein's criminal activities came to light, and that he was charged and sadly given a sweetheart deal, which, as I said in my statement, had that not happened, perhaps his predatory behavior could have been stopped earlier. But I think it is fair to say that the vast majority of people who had contact with him before his criminal pleas in 2008 were like most people. They did not know what he was doing. And I think that that is exactly what my husband will testify to tomorrow.
Madam Secretary, do you believe this was a fair hearing, and do you still want to testify publicly, even though you gave this deposition?
Well, I'm not going to do it again. They had a chance to do it in public, and I wish they had done it in public. And I think they're making the wrong decision, avoiding doing it in public. I thought it was very repetitive. I thought that they asked literally the same questions over and over again, which didn't seem to me to be very productive. And then, as I said, toward the end, there were other questions that were totally off subject. So if they are going to fulfill their responsibilities to literally investigate the investigations, which is what they originally said was the scope of their work, I think they could have spent the day more productively.
Madam Secretary,
James Matthews from Sky News. Can I ask, why was Colleen Maxwell invited to the daughter Chelsea Clinton's wedding in 2010? She'd already been mentioned in a civil lawsuit by Virginia G3 before that. Jeffrey Epstein had already been convicted before.
She came as the plus one, the guest of someone who was invited.
Madam Secretary, could you tell us your reaction, please, to the photos of your husband in the hot tub in the swimming pool?
What message does it say that President Trump is
I
not
don't know when the video will be out. I don't know when the transcript will be out. We've asked that they be out as quickly as possible, and then you can see.
Madam Secretary, what was your reaction to your husband's photos in the hot tub? We heard from Bill Gates concerns about...
All right, that was obviously former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, who was speaking about her deposition today. Now, both sides, the Democrats and the GOP side, obviously spoke and responded to the deposition. We're going to start with the Democratic response, then we'll move over to the GOP response. Let's start with the Dems.
Thank you. I'm Ranking Member Robert Garcia for Oversight Democrats. I'm going to make some brief statements, as will my colleagues, and then perhaps a question or two, and then we're going to get back to the deposition. As a reminder, this deposition has now gone on for about 2 hours, 2 hours plus 2.5 hours, and so it will continue throughout the day. And so, I'm going to be also respectful of not being specific, but we do have some overall statements to make, and a lot of this obviously ties into what the Secretary has already put out herself in her opening statement. Just want to begin by just clarifying and putting emphasis on something that's very important, and it's something the Secretary herself has said. Secretary Clinton never met Jeffrey Epstein. She never visited the island. She never flew on his plane. And she also had no knowledge of Jeffrey Epstein's horrific crime. So zero knowledge of any wrongdoing. And you've also all heard that directly from her. Secretary Clinton is also completely cooperating with the deposition and the committee, and is answering questions in full faith and in good faith. What is not acceptable is oversight Republicans breaking their own committee rules that they established with the Secretary and her team, which you've all reported and you've seen by releasing photos. Not acceptable, and it was gracious of the Secretary and her team to continue the deposition. What we also want to say at this very moment is it's becoming more clear every single day is the questions continue to build around this DOJ and the White House and the focus of the majority. We want to understand right now where the missing FBI files are. These are files that accuse the President of the United States about serious accusations around sexual abuse. And the fact that they're not in the files and have been apparently either removed or discarded is incredibly concerning. And so we're calling on Attorney General Pam Bondi to immediately release those files. And lastly, I want to also add that this committee has now set a new precedent about talking to presidents and former presidents. And we're demanding immediately that we ask President Trump to testify in front of our committee and be deposed in front of oversight Republicans and Democrats. And that should happen immediately. He is the person that appears almost more than anyone else in the committee, and it needs to happen right now.
Mr. Chairman, do you distinguish at all between a president and a former president and a sitting president? I mean, is there something in there? Because they will say, wait a minute, we know what the court ruled on his immunity.
We should depose the person that is mentioned in the Epstein files almost more than any other person next to Ghislaine Maxwell, and that's Donald Trump.
Mr. Rankin,
we're going to have a couple comments, and then we're going to go ahead. I'm going to answer a couple questions.
Thank you. Thank you. House Republicans need to get serious about this investigation. I understand now fully why Secretary Clinton wanted to make this deposition and her hearing public, because the reality is we're talking to the wrong person today. Who we should be talking to instead are people who are actually mentioned in the files, people who have made misleading statements about their relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. Earlier today, Chairman Comer mentioned being open to talking to Secretary Lutnick. Well, let's get him in. Let's talk to Secretary Lutnick instead. Let's talk to someone who is neighbors with Jeffrey Epstein, who actually associated with Jeffrey Epstein, not someone who had never, ever met Jeffrey Epstein to their knowledge. And so let's try to talk about people who will help us with our investigation, and let's release the 2.5 million files so we can know who else to talk to, and so we can do right by the victims and actually bring justice. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm Congresswoman Yasmin Ansari, representing Arizona's 3rd District. I am extremely appalled by the Republican chairman's behavior today and by the behavior of the entire committee and how unserious they are about this investigation. Let's remind the country about what we are actually talking about. Jeffrey Epstein, Ghislaine Maxwell, and a list of many rich and powerful people from around the United States and around the world abused and raped more than 1,000 people who were children, many of whom were children at the time. And today we are sitting through an incredibly unserious clown show of a deposition where members of Congress and the Republican Party are more concerned about getting their photo op of Secretary Clinton than actually getting to the truth and holding anyone accountable. I also want to talk about the reporting from this week and the fact that we now know that the Department of Justice, in their ongoing cover-up, the most egregious cover-up in American history, intentionally seem to have redacted more or withheld more than 50 pages of allegations from a minor against President Trump. Do not forget that Kash Patel went in front of the Senate Judiciary Committee and said under oath that the FBI FBI had no credible allegations of any other people being involved in this child sex trafficking operation. These documents that the Department of Justice intentionally has withheld from the American public in regard to the allegations against President Trump came from the FBI. The FBI had interviewed this witness 4 times. You do not do that if it is not serious. So Kash Patel needs to be immediately brought back before the Oversight Committee. He needs to answer these questions again, and we need answers immediately. Again, America is watching. Young people in this country are watching to see if powerful people will continue to protect other powerful people and whether or not Congress will actually hold these perpetrators accountable. Thank you.
Wesley Bell, Missouri's 1st Congressional District, and as a former prosecutor, I've been involved in leading investigations in serious offenses, and this ain't it. What we're seeing is political theater. What we're seeing is folks that are looking for headlines and tweets as opposed to doing the business of going about getting justice for the victims in this case, and survivors in this case, I should say, as well. And I think that that's what I think some of our friends on the other side are losing sight of, is that we are here to make certain that justice is served, and it's important for us, and as oversight members, to do our job to ensure that all the evidence, any information is heard, and that any victims, any survivors' voices are heard as well. And that's what we're supposed to be doing. And so what we're seeing today is we have not learned one new thing. The secretary is here. She is more than happy to have all of you come in there and into this deposition and hear her out. But there are those on the other side of the aisle who do not want that for whatever reason. And so we're going to continue to push for justice. We're going to continue to work to make certain that the victims and survivors are given their due and their voices are heard, and that justice is ultimately served.
Thank you. I'm James Walkinshaw from Virginia's 11th District. The Trump administration's treatment of the survivors of Jeffrey Epstein's crimes has been a callous disregard. We've seen that in his refusal to release the files. We saw that this week at the State of the Union with his refusal to acknowledge the survivors who were in the chamber. One of the things that's been confirmed today is that in addition to having no relationship with Jeffrey Epstein, Secretary Clinton has no relationship with Ghislaine Maxwell. But there are important questions we should be asking the Trump administration about Ghislaine Maxwell. And I hope that our Republican colleagues will join us in asking these questions. Why is it that Donald Trump has refused to rule out the pardon, the clemency that Ghislaine Maxwell is campaigning for? We held a deposition in this committee with Ghislaine Maxwell. She used that deposition as an opportunity to campaign for a pardon. Chairman Comer then walked out before many of you and gave her talking points as to why she should get a pardon. Donald Trump needs to direct Attorney General Bondi to release all the files, to unredact the illegal redactions, and he needs to unequivocally rule out a pardon for Ghislaine Maxwell, who is a monster convicted of child sex trafficking. Why has he not ruled out pardoning her? Why did the Deputy Attorney General spend hours with her, and then why was she transferred to a cushy, lower security prison? Those are important questions we should be asking about Ghislaine Maxwell. We no longer have to ask whether there's any relationship between Secretary Clinton and Ghislaine Maxwell. There was not.
Can you give us
I'm going to answer the question. I'm going to answer the question. One second. I'm going to one statement, then one question. Last thing I'm going to say, and I'm going to begin with a question, is we want to make a very clear demand right now, which is that the full transcript, unedited, of the Secretary's questions and the answers.
All right, that got cut off, but that's all we have from the Democratic response. We're going to go now to the GOP response, who obviously discussed what they thought after Hillary Clinton's deposition. Let's go to this now. Mr. Comer speaking first.
to thank everyone for standing out and braving the cold. Our deposition has concluded. It's a shame that it took 7 months to get Ms. Clinton in. She answered most of our questions. I'm going to let some of my colleagues lament on that, but we're going to not release too many details of what happened today. We're going to try to get the video out as quickly as possible, hopefully within the next 24 hours. That's a very long deposition, so as quick as we can get that video produced, we will get that out. The transcript will be released as soon as her attorneys approve it. That's the standard rules of a deposition, and I think that I think this was a productive deposition today. I think we learned a lot. There were a lot of questions that we asked that we weren't satisfied with the answers that we got, but we will continue to move forward. Any of my colleagues, every member of the committee asked questions. And
I would just say one of the things I learned today is if you really have specific questions about the Clinton Global Initiative or the relationship between the Clintons and Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, you got to ask Bill Clinton.
That's a great point. The number of times that she said, "I don't know, you'll have to ask my husband," was more than a dozen, and I'll put it like that.
If I can, if I can just hop in. Also, too, I think it's important to note that we have been working in a bipartisan fashion to make this as painless as possible for the people that we're bringing in, but also to ensuring that there's accountability and transparency. You will hear a lot of spin, sometimes out of politicos in Washington, but the fact is that it's our goal and objective following this, and we also, too, did ask for follow-up from the Secretary on producing legislation that will help prevent this from ever happening again in the future, obviously working to combat trafficking, which has been a cause incredibly important, not just to myself, to Chairman Comer, to Representative Nancy Mace, but many members of this Oversight Committee. And so we are looking forward to continuing to provide that transparency. And Nancy, do you have anything?
First of all, I want to thank Secretary Clinton for being here for as many hours as she was here today. She took every question from every single member. I want to thank my colleagues on both sides of the aisle, Republicans and Democrats alike, for being here today and asking questions. I very much look forward to speaking to her husband, former President Bill Clinton, tomorrow. We have a lot of work to do. Not surprised by some of the answers, surprised by some, and you'll get the transcript very soon, but I want to thank everyone who participated. This is nowhere near from over, and making my notes today, I've got names of individuals that I believe we need to haul to the Oversight Committee and ask them questions, ask them their perspective, ask them about other potential witnesses or victims or potential predators. I think this is going to go on for a long time. There are millions of files. There are a lot of people involved. And some of the gaps that have been seen, especially early on, are very evident after speaking with her today. And I just want to thank everyone for their time. And we have a lot of work to do, and I'm willing to work with anyone who's willing to work with me. I'll work with you on getting to the bottom of this, making sure that this doesn't ever happen again. And when it does, those predators are held accountable to the fullest extent of the law. Thank you.
Go ahead, and then we'll whenever everybody's finished.
So this is a nonpartisan issue. If you've read the Epstein files, there's unspeakable evil in there, and the American people and the victims deserve transparency and accountability. The biggest thing I think we need to know is how do we strengthen laws to prevent human trafficking in America, if not the world, and how does someone with such evil infiltrate the highest levels of the U.S. government and world leaders? So we're going to continue to ask those questions and get answers for the American people.
We'll be happy to answer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Secretary Clinton said in her opening statement, if Republicans were serious about investigating Jeffrey Epstein, that you would call President Trump to testify. Why won't you?
Well, President Trump has answered hundreds, if not thousands, of questions from you all.
All right, folks, we're going to take a quick 2-minute break. We'll have more for you, more local news after this. In fact, we'll go to the UNC Charlotte 49ers. They just welcomed a new athletic director. We'll have that in 2 minutes for you after this. An exciting day for the 49ers and a big day for the new athletic director. Let's go to this now as we just learned who this will be.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Thanks for being here. This is a great day for Niner Nation. I'd like to start by recognizing several individuals with us here today. First, UNC Charlotte trustees, Henry Atkins, John Bailey, and Board Chair Dante Wilson. Dante and David Raven also served on our search committee, along with Katie Renaud, our Senior Associate Athletic Director for Governance and Regulatory Affairs. I'd like to recognize Commissioner of the American Conference, Tim Pernetti. Thank you for being here. Officials from the ACC, Commissioner Jim Phillips, Vice President for Finance and Business Operations, Kelvin Anthony. Also, Clemson University Athletics Director, Graham Neff. Also here, Charlotte former trustee and board chair, Gene Johnson. Thank you for being here. Charlotte former athletics director and AD emeritus, Judy Rose. Charlotte interim athletics director, Jesh Humphrey. Several of our head coaches are here today, and many donors and friends with us whose support means so much to this university and our athletics programs. And last, but certainly not least, we're thrilled to have several members of Kevin White's beautiful family with us, including his wife, Jari, his son, Camden, his daughter, Kinley, his mother, his brother. Could I ask the entire White family that's here today if you would stand and allow us to extend a warm Charlotte welcome to you. Thank you for being here. Today is a great day for Charlotte athletics and for our university as we introduce and celebrate Kevin White as the next director of athletics at UNC Charlotte. Charlotte is a university that competes in the classroom, in research, and on the court and field. We are an R1 institution in one of the most dynamic cities in the country. Our expectations are high, and our aspirations are even higher. Athletics matters here. It matters to our student athletes, it matters to our campus community, it matters to our alumni and supporters, it matters to me, and it matters to the Charlotte region. We're committed to competing at the highest level in the American Conference and positioning Charlotte athletics for sustained competitive excellence. With that in mind, when we set out to find our next athletics director, we were looking for four things: someone who can fundraise, someone who gets revenue generation, someone who knows how to win, and someone with a proven track record of strong and visionary leadership. We were pleased to have a robust pool of more than 100 people interested in this position. In every category, one applicant stood out from the rest. Kevin White checked all four boxes and then some. At Clemson, he helped lead one of the nation's premier athletics programs, serving as Deputy Director of Athletics and playing a central role in competitive success, revenue growth, NIL strategy, student-athlete wellness, and major capital investments. He understands what it takes to build programs that compete for championships and how to sustain that success over time. This is a pivotal time in all of collegiate athletics. The landscape is evolving rapidly. Programs that succeed will be those that are disciplined, aligned, and bold in their approach. Kevin has demonstrated that he can lead in that environment. Most importantly, he understands that competitive success and student-athlete development go hand in hand. We are committed to ensuring our student-athletes have the resources, support, and environment necessary to compete at the highest level and succeed beyond their playing careers. Charlotte Athletics has tremendous potential. We have talented student-athletes, dedicated coaches and staff, and a passionate community behind us. Kevin's leadership will help us harness that momentum and elevate our competitive standing in meaningful and measurable ways. Kevin, we're excited to welcome you and your family to Charlotte. We look forward to the work ahead and to building a championship drive and culture that reflects the ambition of our university and our city. Thank you, and go Niners. Now, I welcome UNC Charlotte's chair of our Board of Trustees, Dante Wilson, to share a few words.
Good afternoon, everybody. Are you all ready? This is an exciting day, First of all, welcome to Kevin and his family. Thank you all for being here. This is your success as well. Plus, I kept looking over there and like, why is Kevin in the audience? Y'all notice y'all seen his twin brother. I was getting confused for a little bit, but his twin brother's here. But thank you all for being here. And thank everybody else that are here today support this momentous moment. This is exciting. We're living forward and we reflect backwards. Like, you're making history, you don't realize that. It just feels like an ordinary Thursday. And in 20 years from now, we'll look back and say, that was the day. That was the day that changed the game forever for Charlotte athletics, therefore for the University of North Carolina and Charlotte. So this is an exciting day, and I'm super excited that I've had the privilege to be your chair and to be on the search committee working hard, going through those 100 resumes, interviewing all day long, 2 days straight to be able to make this happen today. And clearly we got the best candidate, the best athletic director in the country, not the country, the world, in the world to lead us forward. I'm confident in that. And let me tell you what some of the things that I saw. So obviously, Chancellor mentioned some things that stood out to her. The first thing that I saw is this is a man of achievement. A man of achievement, consistent achievement. The second thing that I saw, this was a man that had a vision, a very clear vision. He'll share some of that. He's probably going to share his tagline with you all. And you have to have a vision. You have to know where you're going. And the board, we talk about this often. They've heard me say this often, is that you can't only just have a vision, though. You have to have vision, but vision without execution is hallucination. This is a man that has execution. I've looked through his probably 200-page plan. I can't remember how many pages it is. He has the details for what he wants to do. Not only does he have the details around execution, he's been there and he's done that. He's a student champion, student-athlete champion, and he's proven that over and over again. He's won at very competitive levels and shown us that he knows what it takes to be successful at the highest level, and that's the level that we're going to compete at. But most importantly, this is a man that has a heart. This is a man that cares and that loves, and he believes in team ball, and he believes in the university, and you're going to see him exude that in everything he touches, not just athletics, everything on campus, everything in Charlotte, everything in the region. He's also a man that has lots of connections, which I love, and he's an innovative revenue generator. We jokingly talked about, the Chancellor and I have not received as many calls for people who could immediately write immediate support of the program. I'm seeing some of you in the audience, and I know others that are going to be watching, and we're going to be calling you for that immediate support so that we can do what we need to do to not only be in the top 75 of all universities from a full student academic success perspective, but to move into the top 50. And athletics has to be a part of that equation. So I'm super excited to be here. Thank you all for allowing us to serve on your behalf to select the best AD in the entire country.
Thank you, Dante. We are very grateful for your leadership and for your ongoing support, so thank you. Now, it is time for us to bring up our new AD so that you can hear from him. It's my sincere pleasure to officially welcome Kevin and his family to Niner Nation and introduce him to you today. Ladies and gentlemen, Kevin White.
Wow, what a day, what a day. I'm really appreciative of everybody stepping up and coming here to support us today. Thank you so much, Chancellor Gaber, for your kind words and for the trust and confidence you have placed in me and my family. Your vision for this university, your leadership, and your belief in what Charlotte can become made a lasting impression on me throughout the process. This is a great job at a great university, and I'm sure you had the opportunity to select from a number of outstanding candidates. I'm truly grateful that you chose to place your trust in me, and I look forward to partnering with you as we continue to elevate Charlotte together. I firmly believe athletics should reflect and advance the broader mission of the university. I'm excited to work alongside you in Charlotte Athletics to serve the powerful front porch of this institution, supporting enrollment, engagement, pride, and opportunity across our entire campus community. I also want to express my sincere appreciation to the Board of Trustees Chair, Dante Wilson, and the members of the Search Committee, Trustee David Raven, and Athletic Administrator Katie Renaud. Thank you for your professionalism, your passion for this university, and ultimately your belief in what we can accomplish together at Charlotte. This opportunity represents both a tremendous honor and a tremendous responsibility, and I want you all to know that I'm all in. Before looking ahead, I want to thank the people and institutions that helped shape me along the way. Clemson University has been incredibly special to me and my family. I'm grateful to Athletic Director Graham Neff and ACC Commissioner Jim Phillips for being here today. Both of you have mentored me, you've challenged me, and you supported me in ways that prepared me for this moment, and I'm deeply thankful. I also want to thank American Conference Commissioner Tim Pernetti for being here and making this a special day for me. Commissioner, I appreciate your presence and look forward to working together as we continue to build and strengthen the momentum within this conference. There are also several leaders, I guess, who have played an important role in my journey who could not be here today. Max Allen, Clemson University's Chief of Staff, former athletic directors Cheryl Levick, Rick Hart, and Derek Gregg, along with former Clemson President Jim Clemens. Each of them has invested in my growth as a leader, and I'm incredibly grateful for their guidance. Like many people standing in moments like this, no one gets here alone. My faith is very important to me. God has been faithful to our family. My wife, Jari, you are my partner in every sense of the word. I can't look at you right now. You supported every late night, every challenge, every move, every dream along the way. None of this happens without you. To our children, Justin, Camden, and Kinley, thank you for your sacrifice and your strength through change and transition. You inspire me every single day, and I love you more than anything. I'm incredibly grateful to have my mom, my brother, my sister, my sister-in-law, my brother-in-law, my nephews here today supporting our family. My late father would be smiling from ear to ear if he were here today. My parents made countless sacrifices to create opportunities for me, and I carry their love, their values, and example with me every single day. I also want to recognize the good brothers of Kappa Alpha Psi fraternity. The bond we share means a great deal to me. And to my childhood and college friends who made the trip up here today, I really appreciate you for being here. Your presence means more than you know. At my core, the reason I do this comes down to purpose. Back in 2008, I was working in corporate America and found myself asking an important question. What kind of impact am I really having? Am I making a difference where it truly mattered? Around that same time, I watched something special happen year after year. My wife, Jari, is an educator, and I watched lines of parents wait after kindergarten graduations just to say thank you to her for helping to turn the light bulb on for their child, helping them discover a love for reading and a love for learning. And I remember thinking, I want that purpose. I want to make our society better. I found that purpose in college athletics. Do I love to win? Absolutely. And I understand winning will always be a part of how this job is judged. But equally important, maybe even more important, is impacting the lives of young people who walk onto this beautiful campus. We need to help them grow. We want to help them to develop confidence, help them to become good citizens for life after college. And most importantly, graduating with a degree from this great university. That's my why. To our student athletes, we are here to provide you with a first-class experience. We are here to compete for championships. We're here to grow you, develop you, and leave this university with a degree in hand and a future in front of you. Your experience matters. Your development matters. And your success and competition and in the classroom will always be at the center of our decision making. Charlotte Athletics has extraordinary opportunity in front of it. The university is growing, the city is thriving, and I want everybody to hear this clearly. Charlotte's stock is rising. But in order to truly strike gold, it's going to take all of us. We have more than 189,000 alumni around the country, around the world, and our responsibility is to make sure that they're proud of their university. But greatness requires participation. We need you in the stands. We need you buying tickets. We need you supporting our student athletes. We need you investing, donating, and believing in what we're building together. Because when this university and the city align behind Charlotte Athletics, special things will happen. To our coaches and staff, I know we have talented people here who love the university deeply. That matters. Passion matters, and commitment matters. But if we're going to reach new heights of excellence, it's going to take all of us pulling together, working together, aligned around a shared vision, collaboration, accountability, and unity. This is how we elevate. How will we do it? We'll graduate our leaders, prepare them for meaningful careers. We will compete relentlessly for conference championships, and we will build a program that becomes a source of pride and unity for this entire community. Excellence cannot just live on the scoreboard. Elite must be the standard in everything that we do. How we recruit, how we serve our student athletes, how we engage our fans and donors, how we represent this university every single day. Our coaches have scoreboards that measure wins and losses, but everyone in our department, starting with me, will be accountable to a higher standard. I will never ask more of anyone than I'm willing to give myself. And when I commit fully. In the days ahead, I plan to listen, learn, and build strong partnerships across campus and throughout the Charlotte community. Because success here comes from alignment. Trustees, campus leadership, coaches, staff, alumni, donors, fans, and our student body rowing in the same direction. Charlotte is an incredible university with visionary leadership. We have passionate supporters, outstanding coaches and staff, and together we have an opportunity to build something truly special. My promise to you is simple. We will lead with integrity. We will compete relentlessly. We will develop young people prepared to lead meaningful lives. And we will represent Charlotte in a way that makes every one of our alumni proud to wear green and gold. My family and I are grateful to be here. The work starts today. The future is bright, and together, let's go strike gold. Thank you. Go Niners.
We will now open up the press conference for the attending media. Just a reminder, please identify yourself and your outlet prior to asking a question. Raise your hand and Reese will pass the mic.
Hunter Bailey with the Charlotte Observer. First, welcome to Charlotte. You talked, Chancellor Gaber talked a little bit about one of the 4 boxes she had to check, that being fundraising, that one of those 4 things. You have a lot of background experience with that at Clemson. Will you talk a little bit about that side of the house and then NIL and kind of your plans for that bringing here to Charlotte?
So your name is Hunter? Okay. Thanks, Hunter. Yeah, the fundraising piece is really important, right? And here at Charlotte, it's been very clear that we need to be leaders in fundraising, but also revenue generation, right? And we have a great team around us here at Charlotte, that we're looking forward to putting that action into place, that plan into place. The fundraising piece is really important for us because we can engage with a lot of different donors. We have 189,000 alumni, and 60% of them live within Charlotte. And so we're going to tap into that base, right? And it starts with Penny Hawkins. She's done a phenomenal job with us. Penny, yeah. It starts with Penny. It starts with Penny. And we're going to have success because we're going to look under every rock that we possibly can and connect people back to this great university.
Kevin, Nick Carboni from NBC, welcome.
Thank you, Nick.
What can you apply from the level you were just at Clemson to a level in the American Conference, and what can't you apply, and how do you use that innovation and creativity to reach those goals?
Yeah, so I appreciate that question. I met with the staff. I met with all of our staff and our coaches before earlier today, and it was important for me to meet with them first before I met with anybody from the press or any donors, because I wanted them to know that they're the backbone of what we're doing here and how important they are to our success. I would tell you, I told the staff that, yeah, I'm coming from Clemson, but I'm Charlotte now, right? And I won't reference Clemson very much after today, but I will tell you the thing that really made Clemson great is we didn't rest on our laurels. You know, despite conference, despite going to CFP games and Elite Eight basketball runs, Clemson was never satisfied. And so there's a lot to be taken from that, right? Here at Charlotte, we can never be satisfied. We're going to be great members of the American Conference. We're going to compete at the highest level. But we're never going to be satisfied. We're going to be looking for always ways that we can make things better and have innovative leadership and try to do everything we can in order to make sure that we're successful on the field, on the court, and make sure our student athletes are successful in the classroom as well. And so we're not going to rest until we're successful, and then we're going to keep going after that. So that's what the plan is going to be. And I told the staff that I won't be mentioning Clemson very much anymore. I love Clemson and my time there, but it's time to look forward and bring it back to Charlotte and make Charlotte great.
Hey, Kevin, I'm Eric Spanberg with the Charlotte Business Journal. I'm curious about two things. One is you mentioned that you came from a corporate background in 2008, so I'm curious how you think that affects your approach to college athletics. And then secondly, you mentioned Graham Neff and Commissioner Phillips are here. Curious what advice they may have given you as you were pondering taking this job.
Yeah, thank you, Eric. From the corporate, just being in corporate America, from that perspective, I think that that's really helpful for me because most of the institutions that I've been in have been in really major cities, Atlanta, Dallas, Chicago, and now obviously Charlotte. And so being able to understand how corporations operate, foundations, and how they lean into the local universities or something that hopefully I'll be able to bring to the table for us to be able to build those relationships. So regardless of where someone went to school, whether it's Charlotte or other places in the state, we'll be able to show the benefit for them to be able to invest in Charlotte. Jim Phillips, I will tell you, he means so much to my family. He really does. I mean, he's always available for me when I need him. When I have a call, whether it's industry specific or personal. The advice he gave me was Charlotte is a great job. It's a great city. It's on the rise. And they have an opportunity to do great things. And they're in a great conference, a conference that is well respected, a conference that has had a footprint in the CFP, had representation in the CFP. So you could have it all here. Great leadership, alignment from the board, obviously the president, the chancellor, and then obviously the rest of the athletic department. So that's what he told me. That's really important. And Graham, you know, the last 4 years have been really great for me in my professional career. Graham is a younger guy. He's younger than me, but he's got some gray hairs over the last 4 years. But I learned so much from him. The way that he thinks differently. He's innovative. He's been there for both national championships at Clemson. He's been there for 4 national championship games at Clemson. And so you can really attribute a lot of the success that Clemson has had to Graham Neff and Dan Radakovich. And so for me, it taught me a different way of thinking about things, not ever being satisfied. He wanted to make sure that the university was aligned from the board to the chancellor to the athletic department, because we really do have an opportunity to be the front porch here, right? And I know Chancellor Gabriel has been in some places where the athletic department is the front porch. And so I'm looking forward to doing that here at Charlotte.
Kevin, welcome. Ashley Mahoney with Axios Charlotte. You step into this role amidst a bit of construction behind us and a revamp not only for a $70 billion football stadium expansion, but also for facilities across athletics. What is your understanding of what's going on right now? Do you have things that you would like to tweak, and how do you envision all of this taking shape?
That's a great question, Ashley. I just actually went to my office for the first time like 2 hours ago. So I'll probably need a little time to really just dig in a little bit on that. But we have great people here. We have great people that have great plans in place. They're expanding the stadium, as you alluded to, and it's going to really fit us really well. I'm looking forward to getting in there with our staff and figuring out ways that we can enhance that for the fan perspective, from a student perspective. But just really looking forward to getting here and getting started, rolling my sleeves up and understanding how we can potentially make it better.
Curious, so this role opened up about 4 months ago. When did you kind of learn of this, get involved in this, and when did you know that this was the opportunity that you wanted for yourself?
Well, early on, my ties to the state of North Carolina, obviously when Charlotte came open, I was all ears. I was eager to learn more. And I know the process took their time, and I don't want to talk about the process. That's chancellors and board chairs. That's their process, so I can't really speak to that. But instantly, I was really intrigued by it and interested in it because of Charlotte, because of the city of Charlotte. It really fit a lot of the places that I've been, and I felt like a lot of those things I could translate here, but also because the institution is on the rise. When I was in school in the 90s, it was largely considered a commuter school. Right, and so Chancellor Gabriel's leadership and the Board of Trustees, they've changed that narrative. And obviously going to the American is a really competitive conference, and so a lot of those things really attracted me to the job, along with the continued investments in being an R1 institution. Obviously that happened about a year ago now, and so that opens up other doors for us from an athletic perspective, but also from a university perspective.
Kevin, there's always been made mention of the Fortune 500 presence in this city. What do you think the best way to tap into that is for the athletic program?
I think utilizing the resources that we have around us. I think the connections that we have. Chair Wilson said that he received some phone calls from people that may be connected to me that showed my interest in the job. I think for us, we really make sure that we tap into all of our connections. And so I have some connections at the previous school that I was at. Obviously, the ACC has a large footprint in Charlotte, moving their offices here. And so being able to get involved with the Charlotte Sports Foundation and other organizations is really, really important. This is going to be a large community-based job. I know that. Revenue sharing revenue distribution and revenue generation is important, along with raising money. And so it's going to be very important for me to be tethered to the community and get out and meet as many people as I possibly can to show them why they need to invest in Charlotte and obviously be able to show the return on investment as needed.
Mike Lissette of Carolina Sports Live. I know you just started, but in terms of how hands-on are you going to be with individual teams like, let's say, the football team, in terms of turning that around and giving them the resources that they might need?
Well, that's a great question, Michael. The work has already started. The work has already started. I mean, obviously, coaches went through a transfer portal season, and coaches had some success, obviously, at Ohio and his previous places. I mean, he's had a large amount of success. And so really just look forward to getting here and figuring out how I can support him. What resources does he need in order to be successful? That's what my role is. And then once we define that and we have some alignment there, it's my job to go out and try to chase it. So very hands-on with all of our teams. I met with our coaches earlier, our head coaches earlier today, and told them I'm in the foxhole with them, and we're going to do this together. But we need to be all on the same page and rowing in the same direction.
Chancellor Gaber, you mentioned that he checked all of the boxes that were required and then went beyond. What were some of the boxes that he checked that, maybe you weren't looking for, but you found it in him?
Well, I think we've talked a little bit about the community connections. I don't think every candidate comes with, 30 people texting, emailing, calling. It's a kind of, it was fantastic to know that he had a broad sort of range of people here already rooting for him. And, as Trustee Wilson mentioned, I mean, they're people we know. They're people in our community, and as he also mentioned, that haven't necessarily given to the university that we're going to say, hey, this is important. You want to support our AD, you want to support our athletics programs, we want you to do that. So that was an example of one, because that wasn't something we said was a criteria that was a must-have. That was certainly a nice-have.
Now, you've mentioned, of course, the amount of community involvement that you hope to have, and of course this role does not allow for much downtime, but part of that community involvement is allowing people to get to know you. What do you want people to know, whether it's your favorite music, things that you try to take advantage of, whether it's hiking, fishing, whatever the case may be, but what do you do when you're not grinding on this 24/7?
Yeah, I appreciate that question. My kids are important to me. Being able to watch them compete. They play sports. My son plays lacrosse, and my daughter is a soccer player. I've coined myself as the unofficial photographer, team videographer for his lacrosse program. I'm not very good at it because he doesn't hold back any punches when he tells me that, I missed this shot or I didn't get the best angle. But I try. I really enjoy that, and it really gives me a sense of being able to spend time with them and pouring into something that's important to them. And then my daughter and I just started, I don't want to embarrass her, but we just started this thing together, putting together Legos. She's really big into Legos, and I found myself when I'm doing that, I try to not be as distracted with my phone and text messages and things of that nature, but she kindly reminds me, you're on your phone again, you're on your phone again. And so that's what I would tell you. And then the last thing that we like to do as a family, which may surprise some of you if you know my wife, is we like to go fishing. But she doesn't want to touch the worms, the fish, the pole, or anything like that. And so we really enjoy that. But it's controlled fishing. It's got to be a pond with stock, trout, or whatever. We got a timer now. We're sitting out there for like more than 10 minutes, and it's time to go. So fishing, Legos, and videographer for my son's lacrosse team.
And Kevin, looking into your background, saw some hoop love playing in college. I'm curious, two-part question, one on the sentimental side, one on the business side. Favorite basketball memory for you, sentimental side, and then business side with men's and women's program here. What are kind of your visions for those moving forward?
Favorite basketball memory. I was fortunate enough to play at Oak Hill Academy, and that was an amazing experience. Amazing experience. One of my teammates was Brett Carey, who's one of the assistant basketball coaches here. Dee Tolliver, too, if some of you know that name. I played with Dee Tolliver back in the 90s. So just being at Oak Hill back then and being able to travel the country and play basketball was something that I never imagined in my wildest dreams. And believe it, at one point, I think I had played against or with a player on every single NBA team. That was a cool fact, but I'm never close to being in the NBA. But that was one of my pride points of being able to say that. So that's probably one of my favorite basketball memories. I love hoops, I do. We have some great coaches here that have had success. Coach Reed and Coach Fern have had some success. They've had the last two nights they've had two close ones, and they both figured out a way to pull it out in the end. And so just really wrapping my arms around them, supporting them, and making sure they got all the resources they need in order to be successful in this really competitive environment. But just looking forward to being around those student athletes. I feel a lot of energy when I'm around our basketball student athletes, along with the other student athletes too, but just basketball is it's something that I hold pretty dear to my heart, and just looking for different ways to support them in any way that I can.
Thank you. That concludes our press conference for today. So please travel safely.
All right, folks, we're going to take a 2-minute break. Of course, we'll have more news for the last hour of our show here on WCNC Plus. We'll see you in 2 minutes. All right, welcome back, everyone. Here we are going to go to the vice president who made a trip to Wisconsin today and spoke to a number of individuals at a manufacturing plant. Let's go to this right now and hear from the vice president.
Thank you all. Thank you. Please, please. It's so great to be back in Wisconsin. Am I saying it right? Wisconsin. All right. I got a thumbs up from a couple of these congressmen, so I must be doing it okay. You know, I think Kelly Loeffler, our small business administrator, is one of the unsung heroes of the Trump administration. She has single-handedly rooted out hundreds of millions of dollars, I should say, and on to billions of dollars over the next couple of years of fraud against the American people. So we got to give it up for Kelly. She's doing a great job for all of us, saving us some money. I will say I took special note of one thing that she said, though. Kelly said that I'm the coolest vice president in American history, and I said, Kelly, that is a low standard. That is a very low bar, but I do think that I clear that bar, but I think that was a low standard she set me to. But let me say a few words of gratitude before we get started today, because I'm so grateful to be back in this great state with all of its amazing people. You all know this, Wisconsin is a state with a proud tradition of building great American products with Wisconsin hands, and that's what we're here to celebrate today in this great facility. Now, that would not be possible, of course, without the workers and the leadership of Point Precision. And I've been learning a little bit about this facility just because I knew I was going to come here today. 165 great Wisconsin employees making great American products at a good wage. This is a place that rewards dignified work, and this is a place that makes America and the whole community richer. So you guys should be proud of yourselves. I want to thank the family, Joe and Cindy, and their beautiful kids, and all. It looks like we got some grandkids here, Joe and Cindy. That's amazing. Life's greatest blessing, of course. So great to have you guys. Great to see you guys. Wait, what is today? Thursday? Should you all be in school right now? I caught you. I caught you. But this is a good excuse, right? The Vice President of the United States comes to town, so you ought to get a get out of school for the day card. But I want to thank a couple of other people here, because all the things that I'm going to talk about, all the things we've been doing in the Trump administration would have been impossible without a couple of great congressional allies. And so in particular, I want to call out Representative Derek Van Orden. My dear friend Derek, it's hard to miss him. Thank you. I got to tell you, sometimes in Washington, you get to Washington, there are people you can trust, there are people you can't trust. Derek is one of those guys you can trust to always fight for the people who are in this room. He knows exactly where he came from, a proud veteran. And Derek was talking with me backstage. He's like, we got to do a little video together just so we can get it out there for the congressional campaign. And I said, okay, absolutely. What do you need me to say? And he said, well, just say that, you know, we fought alongside each other in Vietnam. I said, Derek, if we were Democrats, we could get away with that, but I don't think that's going to fly. We're Republicans. These media reporters are not going to let us get away with that. But there are so many great things about Derek, but all of the amazing things. No taxes on tips, that happened because of Derek. No taxes on overtime, that happened because of Derek. No taxes on Social Security, that happened because of Derek. So if you are a citizen in this district and you see a big tax refund check come next month or the month after that, whenever you file your taxes, remember it was Derek Van Orden who made it happen, and it was congressional Democrats who tried to stop it. So we're going to send Derek Van Orden back to Washington? Yes. We've also got President Trump's endorsed candidate for governor of Wisconsin, Tom Tiffany. Tom, please stand up and be recognized. Another great guy. Another guy without whom we could not have accomplished all the great things that we did in Washington, D.C. Now he wants to come back home and serve as governor. Are we going to make Tom Tiffany the next governor of Wisconsin? There we go. And then finally, if I'd had a few people stand up, I want to recognize Representative Grothman. Where's Representative Grothman? Thank you, sir. It's good to see you. Where's Representative Brian Stile? Brian, a great guy. We're not in Brian's district, but a great guy. We've got Wisconsin GOP Chairman Brian Schimming. Where's Brian Schimming? Thank you. State Treasurer John Lieber. Where's John Lieber? Thank you, man. Thank you for your service. And finally, State Senate President Patrick Testin. Patrick, where are you? Thank you. Now, here's what I want to talk about. I want to talk about the stakes coming up in November, because it feels like this election in November is very far away. But if anything, the State of the Union should have showed us that we cannot give power back to congressional Democrats. Now, I am fundamentally an optimist about this country. I believe most people, most human beings, most American citizens, whether they got a D next to their name or an R next to their name, or they have no political affiliation, they're good people. They love our country. They want our country to thrive and prosper. But I got to tell you, after the State of the Union, I'm not so sure that is true of the congressional Democrats that we saw at the State of the Union address. As the President of the United States said very well, you watch their reaction to some of what he was saying, and all I could think was, these people are kind of crazy. These congressional Democrats, if you think about all of the things that they were doing, and I got to tell you, of course, I've got the best seat in the House in many ways, right? I'm sitting right next to the Speaker of the House. I'm sitting right behind the President of the United States. And I've got one internal monologue going on, one thought in my head the whole time, which is don't make a stupid face for 2 hours, which is hard for me. When you're on TV for 2 hours and the Democrats are doing crazy things. So I'll give you a little lay of the land. So to the left, my left, is all of the Republicans, okay, because I'm sitting right behind the president. And to my right is some Republicans, but mostly the Democrats. And so I see the reaction of all the congressional Democrats, and it's one of the most amazing things I've ever seen. So you say, like, for example, you had this beautiful little girl, had such a sweet moment with her dad. You may have remembered. She was probably 6 years old. She had been assaulted by an illegal immigrant. She had had a very bad, I think, medical prognosis, but it turned out that she was okay. This 6-year-old girl, hurt by a human being who never should have been in this country in the first place, who was led into this country by Joe Biden and the Democrats, and she's hugging her dad, and she's so excited, and you can tell, and I think everybody's heart feels very, you get that warm and fuzzy feeling, and then I look over the congressional Democrats, and they're just scowling. They cannot clap their hands for a 6-year-old who survived an attack from an illegal alien. What is that? What kind of a person can't stand up and cheer for an innocent young girl who's doing well, who's showing the entire country strength and resilience? And then the president had this line, I'm not going to get it exactly right, but he said, if you believe, stand up and cheer if you believe that the American government's first priority should be to look after American citizens instead of illegal aliens. And all the Republicans, including Derek and everybody else, stands up and starts cheering. And then you look over the Democrats. Complete silence. No reaction at all. The one thing that got at least some of the Democrats to stand up and cheer was the Olympic hockey team, which we're, of course, very proud of. But you got to ask yourself, ladies and gentlemen, what is it about a political party that cannot stand up and cheer for a 6-year-old girl who survived an attack? What is it about a political party that can't stand up and cheer for the fact that we have rising wages and low inflation for the first time in a very long time in the United States of America? What is it about a political movement that sees the mother of a woman who was murdered on a bus? Because the president highlighted this woman, her 22-year-old daughter was riding on a bus to work, was killed by a violent criminal who was let out of jail 13 times by Democrat leadership, should have never been on our streets, and then murdered an innocent girl. We recognized her mother, her strength and her character and her grief, and I think we all kind of grieve with her a little bit, and the Democrats cannot even stand up and cheer for that. And so the question of the next election is not, do we want low taxes? And of course we do. It's not, do we want a secure border? And of course we do. It's a more fundamental question than that. Do we want to give power back to the people who opened our border, who raised your taxes, who won't even cheer for a 6-year-old girl who was wounded because of their bad policies? And I think our answer to that is hell no. We want to give power back to the people like Derek Van Orden who fight for us. And here's the thing, it's funny, I talk to the president multiple times a day. It's kind of the job of vice president. You talk to the president a lot. And every single day, the president will say to me, what have we done today? Got to do more, got to do more, got to do more, okay? The president has such an intense work pace. And I sometimes think, Mr. President, we got to take stock of all the incredible things that we have accomplished over the last year. When Joe Biden and the Democrats left us, the government of this country, we had the highest inflation that we had ever had in 40 years. Thanks to Donald Trump and congressional Republicans, we now have inflation at 2.4%, the lowest in 5 years, and it's coming even lower, ladies and gentlemen. Under Joe Biden and the Democrats, the average American lost $3,000 in take-home pay. And under Donald Trump and Republicans, in just 1 year, the average American has seen $1,700 increase in take-home pay. That is more money in your pocket, and that's what we're here to do, is make you guys more prosperous. Under Joe Biden in the Green New Scam, we had the highest energy prices that we had had maybe in my entire lifetime. And then we had Republicans take over with a simple principle, which is drill, baby, drill. Get the oil and the gas out of our territory. Use American workers to provide American companies the energy that they need. And now we've got gas prices lower, we've got electricity and utility bills lower, and we've got companies just like Point Precision that can actually afford the cost of doing business, which they couldn't do when Joe Biden was in charge. So it's funny to me, when the Democrats talk about affordability, you heard the president talk about this in the State of the Union address. Hearing the Democrats talk about affordability is like hearing an arsonist complain about fire. It's your fault. You guys left us a country with sky-high inflation. You all left us a country where we were going everywhere but America for energy. You left us a United States of America where the average family was $3,000 poorer. So our attitude is, you know what? When you talk about affordability, you're exactly right. You caused an affordability problem, congressional Democrats, and we are here to fix it. Now, I want to say a few more things, then I'll take some questions from the reporters. So one of the things that I love about what the president has done is he is trying to cut out the fraud and corruption in the federal government. I got to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, it is very, very rampant. We have way too many people who got way too comfortable getting rich off of your tax dollars instead of providing the services that they need or maybe giving you a tax cut. We had fraudsters getting rich off of your generosity. I did a little press conference yesterday with Dr. Oz, who runs our Medicare and Medicaid services. And beforehand, we were talking about some of the fraud that he had uncovered in just a couple of months. Let me give you an example. In next door Minnesota, in Minneapolis, not a very well-governed state, you had a situation where we have a service that the federal government provides. The states actually provide it, and then they get reimbursement from the federal government. And you know what they do? They help autistic kids with after-school services. Because if you know anybody who has autism or is on the spectrum, sometimes you need a little bit of extra help. And so we've got a program there to help those special needs kids to make it easier for their families. What was happening is that Somali fraudsters, many of whom were illegal immigrants, shouldn't have been in this country to begin with. You had Somali fraudsters who were saying that their kids were autistic even though they weren't. They were collecting a fat check from all of you, and they were getting rich from it. So what happens? You get poorer, your tax dollars go to Somali fraudsters, and worst of all, you've got special needs kids in American communities that we ought to be helping, and instead of helping them, we're helping fraudsters who don't have the problem to begin with. That is a scandal. And it's something that Joe Biden and congressional Democrats promoted with their open border, encouraged it, and funded it. Now, I'm here to tell you that the job of your government is not to open your borders and allow fraudsters to come in and take advantage of you. The job of your government is to shut the border and shut off the fraud, and that's exactly what we're doing in the Trump administration. But you know, it's actually not just the people on the ground who are committing some of this fraud. Some of the worst corruption is the corruption that you see in the federal government. And I know Derek and a lot of these other guys were standing up cheering for this. Why don't we stop allowing congressmen and congresswomen to get rich off of insider trading? Is that common sense? So again, I've got a seat unlike any other, and the President of the United States, first of all, the whole time the President's given his speech, I was amazed at his self-control, because I would not have had it if I was up there with the microphone, because these two women, far-left Democrats, Rashida Tlaib and Ilhan Omar, they're sitting next to each other, and they're talking loudly the entire time, okay? So there's a point at which I almost look over at him and go like this. But see, this is the thing you can't do when you're sitting behind the president. I would have gotten in trouble for that. Even Derek wouldn't have defended me if I did that. But it's just nails on a chalkboard. They're talking, they're interrupting. The president was completely unfazed by it. But again, you're sitting there, and then the president gets to the point where he says, you know what? We are going to stop congressmen and congresswomen from getting rich off of insider trading, from violating the public trust that you have put in them and get rich off of insider trading. Of course, a lot of people stand up and cheer. Most of the Democrats don't. You know who was not standing up and cheering? Nancy Pelosi. I have never seen a person more angry in my life than Nancy Pelosi when the President of the United States is calling out insider trading. Ladies and gentlemen, my hope for all of you, of course, is that we can make you richer and more prosperous and safer in your communities. But my hope for all of you is that you find somebody who loves you as much as Nancy Pelosi loves insider trading, because then you will have a very good life indeed. But on all these things, we just have to stop the fraud. The government exists to serve you. We want the government, of course, to be smaller. We want it to be limited in its scope. We don't want it in your pocketbooks. We don't want it telling you what to do. But there are a few things you need the federal government to do. You need it to provide for the common defense. We need a good military. You know, we need it to ensure that people like special needs kids are able to get the essential services that they need and can't afford. I happen to believe I grew up in a poor family. When we have people who are down on their luck, we don't want those people to starve or not be able to get medical care. We want to make sure that Americans are taking care of Americans. But that is not possible if we allow fraudsters to come into our country and get rich off of your generosity of spirit. And so I want you, when you go to the polls in November, I don't want you to just think about all the great things that we've accomplished, all the great things that we've talked about. I don't want you just to think about no taxes on tips and lower gas prices. I want you to think, who is going to protect my money from fraudsters? And the simple answer is, it's Derek Van Orden and congressional Republicans. It is not the Democrats who created this problem to begin with. Now, I got so many notes here. I could sit here and go on for another 45 minutes. Housing prices are down.
Real quickly, everyone, I'm going to take another 2-minute break. We'll come back to the Vice President in, like I said, 2 minutes. See you then. All right, folks, going back to the Vice President right now as he speaks in Wisconsin.
Apartment rents are down 4 months in a row. We came in saying we wanted to make housing more affordable, and we're starting to make good progress on that. The annual cost of a new mortgage in just a year is down by $5,000. And my friends, if we could get Jerome Powell at the Federal Reserve to lower interest rates because the inflation is now low, then those mortgage costs would come down even further. I happen to believe and I know the President of the United States does, that when young people look at their country, one of the best things that we can do for our young families is make it possible for them to afford a home again and raise a family in a piece of land that they themselves own. I happen to believe that we do not want our young people to be permanent renters in the society that was built by their parents and grandparents. We are going to fight for our young families to own a home, and that's exactly what we've been doing for the past year. Let's keep on doing it. But let me just close with this one final thought, and then I'll take some questions from the media. There are a lot of specific issues that matter. We could talk about all of them. We could talk about the fact that we've got a closed border and they opened it. We could talk about the fact that we've got the lowest murder rates in the United States of America in 100 years. And you wonder, how did that happen so quickly? Two reasons. Number one, we empowered our great law enforcement officers to do their job, and the last administration was holding them back. And two, we got a lot of violent criminals the hell out of this country and sent them back to where they belong. That's how you get a low murder rate. We got so many things we could brag on, so many things that we still got to do. We still got to work to make homeownership affordable for our young families. You know, you've probably seen the headlines about, you know, the stock market has been doing incredibly well because the economy's been doing incredibly well. But the president asked me probably 4 months ago, he said, what about the Americans who don't own stocks? And so he's created a new program where we can allow the 35% of Americans that don't own stocks to open up the kind of accounts like a 401k that some workers have access to, other workers don't. We're going to allow every worker to open up that kind of account. So when the stock market goes up, it's good for every single American citizen, not just the 65% of people who own stocks. We want to make it good for everybody. So there's still so much more that we can do. But the fundamental question, I don't think, is this issue or that issue. The fundamental question is, who fights for you? And when I saw at the State of the Union, when I saw all those Democrats sitting on their hands, even when we're celebrating, you know, little girls who survived a terrible attack, it hit me that these Democrats, most of them, they don't serve you. Now ask yourself, why are they sitting on their hands? I would like to think, I don't know him personally, maybe Derek would disagree with me, but I'm going to be a little charitable to those congressional Democrats. And I think when that little girl was standing up hugging and kissing her dad, that those Democrats, there was at least a part of them, the human part in their soul that wanted to stand up and cheer for that little girl, and all of them sat on their hands. And you have to ask yourself, why is that? And the answer is because they know they don't answer to you. They answer to somebody else. They answer to people who have corrupted this country. They answer to people who opened the border. They answer to people who got rich off of illegal immigrant labor. We want you guys to get rich off of the labor of American citizens. We want American workers to get rich for working hard, not illegal aliens. And that, to me, is the fundamental difference between congressional leadership and congressional Democrats and the congressional Republicans under the leadership of this president. These guys, they don't serve you. Watch a speech of any of the congressional Democrats. Go watch a if you can handle it. Maybe have a few good Wisconsin beers beforehand and prepare yourself. But watch a speech when these guys talk about illegal immigration, and then watch a speech when they talk about manufacturing jobs for American workers. That doesn't give them passion. That gives Donald Trump passion. That gives Derek Van Orden passion. The idea that every single one of you should have a good job, a good life if you work hard and play by the rules. The idea that our young families should be able to own a stake in their country. That's what fires us up. That's what we're fighting for in government. But you watch these congressional Democrats, what really fires them up, they get really mad at the idea that we are deporting illegal immigrants. They talk about the dreams of illegal immigrants who have come into our country, but what about the dreams of you and your children? Because that's who I'm fighting for. That's who Donald Trump is fighting for, and that's who Derek Van Orden is fighting for. I'm not going to tell you, and I know there are a lot of people who are going to watch clips of this or even watching it live right now. I'm not going to tell you you're going to agree with us, agree with me on every single issue. That'd be impossible. Even in the Republican Congress, which is just, 220 or so very good guys, you've got disagreements of opinion. You've got some people who will say this thing about this issue and something else about another issue. Disagreement is fine. But I'm not asking you to agree with us on everything. I'm asking you to remember who serves you. And what I know about Donald Trump and the congressional Republicans is that we wake up every single day and we think about how do we fight for you. The question in November is, do we give power to the people who fight for corruption, who fight for fraud, who fight for illegal aliens, or do we give the government to the American citizens for whom it was designed and for whom it was created? I think I know the answer. Let's vote for our people. Let's vote for Derek Van Orden next November. Thank you all. Thank you, guys. Thank you all. Okay. Thank you. Please have a seat, and what we'll do is we'll answer a few questions from the media, and I would ask that the local reporters get first dibs here, and then we'll answer as many questions as we've got time for. So go ahead.
Alex Loroff with Spectrum News 1. Mr. Vice President, there was a poll released yesterday of Wisconsin voters where 70% of respondents said their biggest concerns right now are affordability and the cost of living.
Sure.
What can still be done at the federal level to ease some of those affordability concerns that Wisconsinites still have?
Well, look, it's our top concern, too. We want people to be able to afford a good life. Nothing breaks my heart more than the idea that you've got somebody who goes out, they bust their rear end, they come home, they want to give their kids a nice meal, maybe once or twice a year they want to take their kids on a nice vacation. We want people to be able to afford that so long as they work hard and play by the rules. And I think the thing that we've tried to remind ourselves of in the Trump administration is we were put in a very big hole. When you talk about the average American family under Biden's leadership that lost $3,000 of take-home pay, we think every single day, how do we get that $3,000 back and then some? You heard me say earlier, and this is a true statistic, that the average American family has gained about $1,400 under the Trump administration just in about a year and a month. Now that's something we're very proud of, but we think every single day that still means that compared to when Biden took over, those Americans are still running behind. They're still catching up. So I think what we have to do every single day is come up with ideas for how to make the American people's lives better, and that's what we're doing. Some of this is the policies that we've already put in place take a little bit of time to work their way through the system. Some of it is we got to keep on working at it. You know, a few months ago, the President of the United States had the big pharmaceutical companies into the Oval Office. And normally what happens is these big pharmaceutical companies, they come to Washington, thanks to the fraud and corruption, and they get a big fat paycheck from congressional Democrats. You know what they got instead? They got a lecture from the President of the United States. Why is it that the people in this room, for my entire life and then some, paid the highest prescription drug prices in the world, while people in England or France or other rich countries paid much lower prices? And the reason is because the pharmaceutical companies took advantage of us. That was corrupt. It was unacceptable. Now, you're already starting to see this with certain medications, and you're going to see it with more, but the President of the United States said, we are done paying more than Europe for prescription drugs. We want to pay what they pay, and if you're not going to take that deal, then get the hell out of my office. Well, they took that deal. So we got to keep working at it. But I'd say to Wisconsin voters, whether they're conservative or liberal or in the middle, I'd say to them, ask yourselves what kind of a hole the Joe Biden era put us in, and do you want to give power back to the people who created those problems, or do you want to double down on the administration that has busted our tails for the last year to fix those problems? Let's double down on the leadership that's fixing the problems, not the leadership that created them.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. Matt Smith from WISN TV in Milwaukee. On the fraud efforts and what we saw in Minnesota yesterday, here in Wisconsin, the governor has refused to give over the SNAP data here in the state, along with the voter data. I'm curious, is there a point, or at what point would the administration withhold federal funds from Wisconsin?
Well, look, we're going to look at every option that we have because we've got to stop this terrible fraud, but that is absurd. Ask yourself a question. Why would the government of Wisconsin not want to help us kick fraud off of the welfare rolls and kick fraud off of the voter rolls, and the only answer I can possibly come up with is because they like to cheat. There's no other real explanation. Now, the governor might say, in fact, I'm sure the governor would say this, let me just be charitable to those who disagree with us. The governor would say, well, there isn't as much fraud as the Trump administration believes there is. Well, even if that's true, and it's not, but even if that's true, let's get what fraud there is off the voter rolls and off the welfare rolls. You know the right number of people who should be illegally voting in American elections? 0. You know the number of people who should be fraudulently collecting food stamps? 0. I want those benefits to exist for the people who need them. The only way to promise that is to get the fraud out of the system, and that's what we're trying to do in the Trump administration. No more fraud, no more corruption. It shouldn't be hard.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. Ellie Davis, Local 5 News. What should data centers do to be good community partners?
Well, that's a very, very good question. And you saw the president talk about this in the State of the Union address. Look, there's a good news and a bad news with data centers. Now, the good news is, first of all, they're big facilities. You create a lot of construction jobs. And this next generation of the technological revolution, you need those data centers to make that run. Those data centers are like the gasoline of the technology revolution that we're going to see over the next 75 years. And I don't know about you all, but I want America to win that technology revolution. I don't want China or some other country to win it. And so that's why we got to have these things. Now, here's the downside. If those centers are built and the local governments aren't ensuring that there's enough power for those data centers, then it's going to increase electricity costs for everybody else. And so what we think the data centers have got to do is they've got to work with the local governments, with the state governments, and in the federal government, we are trying to do everything that we can so that if you build a data center, for example, you can just build a power plant right next door. What I think we ought to be working towards is you build those data centers and electricity costs come down for American citizens instead of going up for American citizens. The data centers can afford it. We got to make sure that they're good neighbors so that when they come in and build these great buildings, the people in their neighborhood, the people in their community benefit too, and that's through lower power. That's the best way they can be good neighbors. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Laura Schulte. I'm a reporter with the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel. And in Wisconsin, rural hospitals are struggling. Closures are creating healthcare deserts for parts of the state. And what can be done federally to keep those hospitals open and providing necessary care to community members?
Yeah, I appreciate that question. It's a very, very serious problem. And unfortunately, this, like so much of what's going on in our country right now, is a problem that we inherited from the last administration. If you look at the number of rural hospital closures that were happening in 2022 and 2023 and 2024, it was really accelerating. And it's one of the reasons why it's not a provision that's talked about as much, but if you look in the big, beautiful bill, the Working Families Tax Cut, however you're calling it, in that legislation, there is a multi-billion-dollar rural hospital fund to try to help these rural hospitals persevere in tough times, stay open, provide essential services, and get them to a place where they're on firmer financial footing. Nothing like that, I don't believe, Derek, had ever existed in the federal government before, but we said, look, we cannot let these rural hospitals just disappear, so we've created this fund to try to, support the ones that can stay open and try to slow the closures for the ones that are going to have to close. We think that we're starting to see some good evidence from those. It takes a little bit of time for that tens of billions of dollars to work its way through the system, but that's the number one thing. And then the number two thing is the Trump administration did a number of things in the first term, and we're trying to do this in the second term, to give patients more choice. Because what we often do in our healthcare system, like for example, if you're a veteran, under the Biden administration, we would force veterans to drive an hour and a half away to a big city hospital when they could maybe go to a telehealth appointment in their own home, or maybe drive 15 minutes down the road to the local doctor. So we've tried to empower people to have more choice, because if they have more choice, they're going to be able to stay in their communities, which means more money going to those rural healthcare organizations, and that's the way that we save rural healthcare too. It's a tough problem. I'm not going to pretend it's easy, but we are working as hard as we can to make sure that the people in our rural communities still have access to great healthcare. Thank you.
I'm Stephanie Hoff with the Midwest Farm Report Radio Network, talking to farmers across the state of Wisconsin. My question for you today is, commodity markets have not been friendly to Wisconsin farmers. I'm talking corn, soybeans, and dairy. What is the administration doing to bolster trade, increase export markets, and those relationships to bring market prices back up?
Yeah, so the good news on that is that our great Secretary of Agriculture, Brooke, has been on this from the very beginning. I think it was maybe the first cabinet meeting where Brooke comes up to me and says, JD, the farmers have inherited a mess, and we've got to do everything that we can to ensure that they can stay afloat during this very tough time. So one of the things that we're doing is making sure that wherever commodity prices are, that our farmers can do their job, they can provide their food, and if they fall on tough times, there's a little bit of a support mechanism there. Now, you might say, why do we do that? But the answer is actually very simple. If we don't have American sovereignty in our food supply, we don't have sovereignty at all. If you cannot depend on your neighbors to provide your food, if the food that you're relying on comes from another country, say goodbye to sovereignty. Because that country is the one that controls you. The country that controls the food is the country that will ultimately control the entire world. So we've made very strong efforts, and we're going to keep on working at this with our farmers to ensure that whatever commodity prices are, they're able to stay afloat, they're able to grow their products. We know that they're struggling, and we're trying hard to fix that. The other thing the president has done is, for a very long time, China, one of the biggest buyers of soybeans, they would take advantage of American markets, but they would not take the product of Wisconsin farmers, whether it's corn or soybean or whatever it is, they would not offload that product into their country. Now, that was a fundamental unfairness, and that's why the president is fighting back and making sure that we have fair trade practices. If you don't have countries honoring the United States of America, our great farmers and our great manufacturers, if you have countries that are able to come in and undercut the wages of our workers, but we're not able to export their product, ladies and gentlemen, that is not trade, that is international fraud, and that's what's been happening far too long all over the world. The President of the United States is stopping it. We're going to keep on stopping it to the benefit not just of Wisconsin farmers, but Wisconsin manufacturers too. So we'll take two more questions here. Sir.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. Dylan Eckhart, 9 News, out of Wausau, WAOW. Nationally, there has been bipartisan legislation introduced sticking with agriculture. For example, the Domestic Organic Investment Act, which would make a USDA's development grant permanent, allowing for grants for farmers and businesses. How will the administration continue to work with local farmers and businesses in Wisconsin, especially central Wisconsin, to expand on some of those ideas and introduce legislation?
Well, you heard a little bit of my answer in the last question, but you're right that there's a lot of legislation that's working through the Congress, and as broken as Congress is as an institution sometimes, there are still some good pieces of bipartisan legislation that happen. Luckily, I think agriculture is one of those areas where you still have some good bipartisan pieces of legislation. You ask how we're going to work with local farmers, especially in central Wisconsin, and the answer is just to listen. You know, we've got a great legislative team at the White House, but we've also got a lot of great allies like Derek Van Orden in Congress. And what these guys are doing is they're coming to us with ideas. And they're saying, look, we heard from our constituents, this is something we've got to do. You know, whatever the product is, you know, sometimes they're most concerned about commodity prices. They're worried that the soybeans and the corn, it's way too low. Sometimes they're worried, of course, about inputs. They're worried about fertilizer. They're worried about the cost of fuel. So what we just try to do is work with our allies in Congress. And frankly, we'll work with anybody in Congress who has good ideas about how to help our farmers. We're going to have some good legislation on this front over the next year. It's just a question of getting it over the hill, getting it to the president's signature, or to the president's desk, I should say, for his signature. Thank you. One more question.
Thank you, Vice President. Derek Schritz, Newswatch 12 in Rhinelander. Wanted to ask about the healthcare worker shortages in several hospitals. Hospitals in Wisconsin are experiencing or are worried about the aging shift, aging demographic shift, and I'm wondering what the administration will do to bolster the healthcare workforce in the coming years.
Yeah, a couple things that we see is one, you know, we're encouraging hospitals and all healthcare providers, and we're seeing some evidence of this, to use technology to your advantage, right? So if you've got, let's say, a guy who needs to see a doctor, but he can see that doctor from the comfort of his own home, doing a telehealth appointment. Sometimes you got to go into the doctor. Sometimes you can actually do that by just talking to the doctor at home. That we're trying to encourage because that puts less stress on some of the healthcare workers. If you can just see somebody quickly, it's in and out, you don't have to deal with all the paperwork of coming in for a doctor's visit. That's one of the ways that you relieve that stress and shortage that we see in our healthcare workforce. The other thing is that we're investing a lot to try to make sure that we meet the doctor, the nurse, the physician assistant shortage. The basic problem that we had in our country is that for a long time, we would encourage people to get like women's studies degrees in the United States of America, which, maybe you need a few of those. I'm not sure how much. But what you really need is doctors. You need nurses. You need people who can work with their hands. You need people who can work on a farm. You need people who build and make things and take care of people. And our education system just really underinvested in training the next generation of healthcare workers. That's not a problem that's going to be solved overnight, but it is something we're working to solve because we want, I see kids in the audience. I'm sure everybody has a young person who wants to be a healthcare worker, knows somebody in your family or your friendship circle that wants to work in healthcare. We got to make it easier for our young people to choose those careers. Unfortunately, for a very long time, we've actually made it harder for people to go into the healthcare field. We layer up those who do with debt, and we make it harder for them to join the workforce. We're trying to make it easier for people to enter the healthcare field, and in doing that, that's how you release the long-term shortage. So that's all I have. I appreciate everybody who asked a question. I'm sorry if you didn't get time to ask a question, but let me just leave you with this one final thought. So I've got 3 little kids at home, and I've got one on the way. I've got an 8-year-old, I've got a 6-year-old, I've got a 4-year-old, and Usha is pregnant with baby number 4, which we're very happy about, very proud of. Thank you. But my 8-year-old, he's gotten really into football in the last probably 3 or 4 months. Don't hold it against him. He's an Ohio State fan. That's his dad rubbing off on him. Are we Wisconsin fans here in central Wisconsin? Okay. But here's the thing. We watched over the past few days. We watched Rudy. Does everybody remember the movie Rudy? About this guy. He was too little. He wasn't fast enough. He was 5'6", but he worked his tail end off, and he made the Notre Dame football team at really the height of Notre Dame's power. I mean, they were one of the best. They still are, but they really were one of the best football programs back in the country. And it really is just this incredible tale of a guy who believed in his dreams, who fought for those dreams, and would never give up. A classic American tale. But I was watching that movie and I realized the 3 most important people in that movie, obviously one is Rudy, the guy who became the football player. But number 2 is Rudy's dad, and number 3 is the priest. There's a priest in the movie who sort of serves as a spiritual counselor to Rudy. And it kind of hit me watching this movie that the American dream takes many shapes and sizes. I think all of us know that. Even among our own kids, our grandkids, our friends and family, you've got the striver. You've got the guy like Rudy who's got really big dreams, wants to play football for Notre Dame, and is going to make those big dreams happen. But you've also got a guy like Rudy's dad. A guy who just wanted to work a good job, who wanted dignified work, who wanted to raise his family and take a nice vacation every now and then. And then you had this priest who was kind of the glue that held everything together, that helped people when they were struggling, that provided counsel to people when they were down on their luck, and was empowered to be a leader in the community. And I realized watching this that when we talk about the American dream, I'm not talking about my American dream. I'm talking about your American dream. Whether you want to have a good job and raise a healthy, happy family.
All right, that was the end of the Vice President's speech that we have. We're going to take another 2-minute break and round out our 2-hour news show with a little bit more news before we end at 9. We'll see you in 2. Welcome back, guys. Our next art event had a local artist on who's trying to spread his art even abroad. Let's go to this interview right now.
Welcome to the show, my guy, Serge, Justin Surgeon. How you doing, man?
What's up, Nick, man? It's great to see you, bro. I appreciate you having me on.
Hey, man, before we get into it, hey, Serge and I went to the same high school, man. Southwest Guilford High School, man.
Played football together and everything.
Serge was a quarterback, wide receiver, man. I was on the bench, man. I was on the bench.
At least you're honest.
Oh,
Hey,
man. Good times, man. I'm proud of you, bro. Let's get into it, man. You got this collaboration with Lethal Shooter, Red Bull, made the trip out to the Philippines. Man, how did it all come together?
Well, Chris and I are family. He's been working with Red Bull for a couple of years, man. So that's how they got me on their radar. They checked my workout and they liked it, and they reached out for a collaboration, man. So I was truly blessed to even get that opportunity and be able to get off work to go out there and work with some great artists in the Philippines. So, designing the project literally on my iPad and then seeing it come to life, man, it was literally like a dream come true, to be honest.
Yo, how long did it take you to design this? For folks watching, you can see the court right there, the design, man. How long did it take for you to do this?
Yeah, man. So I started the design back in November on the iPad. The guys out there in the Philippines, they started it before I actually got there. So I was there for about 8 days. So I got to come in and basically finish it off, make some alterations and stuff that I wanted to make, and that Red Bull sought to change and everything like that. So yeah, man, it was definitely a team effort, and it was just a great experience, just being out there. Being immersed into the culture. That was my first time in Asia, period. So just to see how they live over there and to see how cheap everything is compared to what it is over here, it was definitely eye-opening.
Were you nervous at all, man? Because this is a huge project, man. And look, man, incredible work, man.
I appreciate it. I was nervous a little bit. It's always good to have those good nerves. But, that's just the desire to complete the project and do it at the highest level. So, yeah, man, it's all worth it after it's done, for sure.
Are you going back for the half-court series at all?
That's in December. Hopefully, I'll get a chance to go back out there. The basketball culture in the Philippines is it's on another level, man. It's courts everywhere. So, while I was out there, I did have the urge to play, but I had a lot of work to do. So, hopefully, if I go back, I'll get a chance to hop out there on the court and play a little bit.
Bro, I was about to ask you, when's the last time you played? Because, hey, Serge used to play on the high school team. Serge could ball now. Like, when's the last time you balled?
I still get out there a little bit. The last time I played full court was probably about 2 months ago. I got a membership to the gym on campus, an alumni membership at UNC Charlotte. So I'll go out there and run with the young guys a little bit. I can give them 2 good games, but that's about it. That's all I got right now.
Yo, it's crazy how, like, after one game, well, your knees, your Achilles, all of it shot.
Nick, when's the last time you balled?
Everything hurt.
Carlene asked me when's the last time I balled. Man, it's been full court. It's probably been like at least 5 years. It's been a long time. I mean, if you don't do it, you get busy.
Don't just jump out there. If you want to play, you might want to ease your way back into it. You know what I'm saying? I know a lot of guys our age that have torn Achilles, ACLs, trying to jump out there and play. So, it's different now.
Man, we are those guys now. That's crazy. Hey, bro, I got to ask you, man. For those who don't know, when did your journey start as an artist? Because I knew you from, man. We just think about growing up, man. We were so competitive, man. Because we played sports. I don't even think like we really. It's crazy. I don't even think we really got to know each other as people, who we were, man, and our interests. We were so just competitive in what we were doing in sports, man. But when did the love for art kick in?
Honestly, man, I used to draw even from when I was a little kid, going back to elementary school. So that was really my thing, is just like being a sketch artist, So I took pretty much every art class there was at Southwest when we were there. So I was under Miss Setliff. I don't know if you remember her, and Mr. Joyner came later on in our high school career. So he really encouraged me, being one of the only black male teachers that we had around. He was definitely a figure that encouraged me to continue to grow my craft. But just having that gift naturally, I never really took it serious. It was nobody that told me that I could be a professional artist. So throughout college, I wasn't really using the gift like that, to be honest with you. But in March 2015, I was in an accident here in Charlotte, uptown. I got actually ran over by a bus. My right arm ran over by a bus, and I'm right-handed. So during that process of rehabbing and all of that stuff like that,
All right, guys, that concludes our time here on WCNC Plus. Don't forget, our coverage continues at 9 o'clock. We've got some special stuff. And then at 11 o'clock, don't forget that story, that investigation that Nate Morabito spoke on WCNC Plus earlier tonight. We'll have that for you on WCNC Charlotte. We'll see you tonight.